Welcome everyone, my name is Rigel, and welcome to my brand new series called Rigel's Random Reports. Now, I'm starting this new series for two reasons. First off, this replaces my old series, uh, What We Know So Far, because that name is actually stolen from another Eurovision YouTuber. Granted, we do it in very different manners, but we're both kind of reading off of Wikipedia and Eurovision World. Um, so at some point, I was gonna need a new name anyway. But yeah, this is what I came up with. And second reason is that I just like the alliteration, and also this name more accurately reflects the nature of this series over the next few months and possibly years. Um, because I'm gonna get more busy, or at the very least less motivated. So these are gonna come out at random intervals whenever A, I can find time, and B, I can be motivated to sit down and record something like this. So that's the reason for the name change and starting anew, because it is the new year after all. And speaking of that, this is gonna be talking about Eurovision still, but for now it's going to be adult Eurovision because we don't have a whole lot of junior news yet. And it's going to be on Eurovision 2025 as of, well, basically 2024. I am literally recording this on the morning of the 31st, so I don't know how many people are going to even watch this before 2025. But still, this is all we know about Eurovision 2025 as of 2024. So let's begin. Alright, to start off with, we have, of course, the host country, which is going to be Switzerland, because Switzerland won the contest in 2024. And the host city is going to be Basel. Specifically, it will be hosted at the St. Jakobshalle. I hope I'm saying that right, but it is going to be in Basel. There was a short list before the official announcement. It was down to basically Basel and Geneva, and in the end, they chose Basel because they didn't want Eurofans marching up to the EBU headquarters, which are actually in Geneva. There are going to be 38 countries participating in Eurovision 2025, which are basically the same countries as this year, plus Montenegro. Yes, Montenegro is returning to the contest after 5 years of absence. But yeah, they are back. And we're actually going to talk about Montenegro very soon once we get to the entries that have been confirmed so far. But for now, just keep in mind that we basically have all the countries from this year coming back, plus Montenegro. There obviously have been other countries that have been in discussion to return, but nothing really materialized. And one country that is broadcasting the contest but not returning is North Macedonia, which for another year is basically not able to afford to do both adult and junior Eurovision. They are pretty consistent about doing junior Eurovision, but they usually like to prioritize their funds towards that than towards adult Eurovision. So, yeah, North Macedonia will be broadcasting the contest, and we will see them in Junior Eurovision 2025, but not Adult Eurovision 2025. Now, moving on to the brand identity, because that's something we have to talk about now, since the slogan was basically frozen in time in 2023. Or rather, it was frozen in 2024, but the slogan is from 2023, which is, of course, United by Music. But now we have the brand identity of the 2025 contest, which is Unity Shapes Love. And you can see on the top right corner, we have the design basically for Eurovision 2025, and you can see there's a lot of little hearts which are in the shape of the Eurovision heart. So that is basically the theme of the design going forward, and there have been several renders, and this is actually pretty cool, but there have been other parts that are not so cool, which are the font or the typeface that's being used. Some people even figured it out to be a specific font on Instagram stories. So, yeah, that didn't go down so well with the fans, but this is the brand identity that is going to be going forward. It's already been used by several videos on the Eurovision channel, so you can check those out if you're interested. But speaking of design, we also have the stage design. Now, this is once again being done by Florian Wieder, who has designed several stages for Eurovision over especially the last 10 years, and this year he's come back to do a stage. And I would say, looking at the render, that it actually looks quite similar to the 2021 stage. There's that platform in the middle, and overall, I would say it's pretty solid. So, yeah, that is the stage design. Moving on to the current confirmed entries. Now, I don't know if this section is going to be here next episode, because there's going to be a lot more confirmed entries, but as of 2024, we only have 5 confirmed artists and 2 confirmed songs. So let's start with the songs, and let's start with Montenegro. Like I mentioned earlier, Montenegro is returning to the contest after last appearing in 2019. But they are back this year, and in fact, they have gone so far as to host an entire national final called Monte Song. Now, it's interesting because there were a whole 16 songs. However, there were really only 2 songs that were really being talked about, which was this, Dobrodošli by Nina Žižić, and also Clickbait by Neo Noan. I think that's how you say it. But it was interesting because the whole time it's been pretty clear that people want Nina Žižić to win the national final, but actually at the end, it was Neo Noan who had won the national final with their song Clickbait, which had gone, I don't know if viral is the right word, but it had gone very popular in Montenegro and actually won the televotes. But afterwards, they suddenly got investigated by the broadcaster for having allegedly performed the song before September this year, which would make it ineligible for Eurovision. But before the investigation finished, they just decided to withdraw themselves from Eurovision. So Nina Žižić, who came second, by default will be going to Eurovision. So there's already a lot of drama surrounding things like these, but yeah, the end result that we have now after all of the mess that is Monty song is that Nina Žižić will be representing Montenegro with the song Dobrodošli, which translates to welcome. Now, Nina Žižić is no stranger to Eurovision because, in fact, in 2013, I think it was 2013, the very iconic entry Igranka was actually performed by Husi, which was composed of 2 men in spacesuits and also a woman, and that woman was none other than Nina Žižić. So, yeah, she has been to Eurovision before, but now 12 years apart, I think, she is now returning to the contest with the song Dobrodošli. Now, from Montenegro, we're not going too far because we are going to Albania. This is something that's a lot more expected of the season. As they say, Merry Fickmas, because this year Festivali Këngës actually did happen, I think 1 or 2 days before Christmas. And it's also a pretty special Festivali Këngës because we saw the return of none other than Elvana Gjata. Now, you might remember Elvana Gjata from, I can't remember, was it 2018 or 2020, with the song Metana, which was very, very popular amongst Eurofans, and arguably even still is to this day, with the very famous handkerchief choreography. But this time she returned with a song called Carnaval. Now, you'll notice I'm saying all of that, but her name is not listed on the slide because it was actually a different group or different duo named Škodra Elektronika, who actually won the selection. There were many changes to the voting system. I think they changed it to just 50% jury, 50% uh, televote, and actually Škodra Elektronika had won the televote, and had done decently well in the jury as well, which is what allowed them to win the overall selection with the song called Zirm. Now, I haven't listened to the song. I've only seen like clips of the woman dancing, the woman called Beatrice, I think she's called. Um, but yeah, Carnival, in terms of the technical standards, is a lot more challenging. There's a lot of like weird acrobatics being done on stage by Elvana, but the song itself, I've heard bits of it, and it's really, really basic. It's very World Cup y, if that makes sense. It's very typical of a song that you might hear at the World Cup. It's basic party music. There's random Spanish thrown into it at parts as well. So, yeah, song wise, I don't really feel bad that this didn't win, but yeah, I guess Helvana will spend another few years trying to get into Festival de Congress until she gets too old to do it. But nonetheless, she has been a good sport and congratulated Škodra Elektronika on their victory. And so now Škodra Elektronika will be representing Albania at Eurovision 2025. Now, these two are the two confirmed songs, but they are not the first confirmed artists. The first confirmed artist was actually Theo Evans, who will be representing Cyprus. Now, despite his very kind of Anglophone name, he's actually of Cypriot origin, which makes it the first artist since I think 2017 to be representing Cyprus on for Eurovision. So that's kind of huge. You know, the last few years we've all had Greeks, but this year it's actually someone from Cyprus for once. Although from what I understand and from what I've read, he went and studied for a long time in America. His music is also kind of inspired by that kind of stuff, but R&B type stuff. But we don't know when his song is gonna come out. There's no indicators anywhere that I could find. But he was actually the first artist to be announced for Eurovision 2025. Now, after Cyprus, we also have another country starting with C, and that is Czechia. Now, this is quite special considering I am a Czechia stan, and this name has been rumored for many, many years at this point, and it is Adonis. Yes, that X is pronounced like an I because artist name choices. Now, Adonis is not his real name. His real name is Adam Pavlovchin, I think. And he's actually, fun fact, not even from Czechia. He's actually Slovak. But over especially the last few years, he has lived in Prague and worked in Prague making music. He's attended a ton of Czech songwriting camps, which is why people were rumoring him to go to Eurovision for Czechia. And this year, it finally happened. He's got a really distinctive style. He's very outwardly queer, I would say, as well. But yeah, he's been announced for Czechia, and a lot of people are really happy about it. Even the official ESCZ Instagram has said that they might be able to get top 5 with Adonis. So hopes are high, absolutely. And in terms of the song, I saw a photo of Adonis with another Czech potential Eurovision name, Mayala. You might recognize her from ESCZ as well. But yeah, Adonis was with Mayala and also Child from Luxembourg. Yes, Child spelled Child. But yeah, Mayala and Child were in the same room with Adonis for one of the photos that they took at the studio, which suggests that Adonis' song was actually co-written by them as well, among other people. Um, so that is very promising, and I think actually it's almost kind of fitting because if you listen to Child's independent music, that is the music that he didn't bring to the Luxembourg national final, is actually somewhat similar to Adonis's style. So yeah, hopes are high again, and hopes are even higher because for once, the broadcast of Eurovision has moved from CT2 to CT1, which is kind of massive because for years and years, the broadcast of Eurovision in Czechia has been pretty low. The viewing figures have been pretty low because it was on the secondary channel called CT2. But this year, all shows will be broadcast on CT1, which is kind of massive. And I'm not really sure what caused them to do this, especially considering they just non-qualified. But it's very happy news for all of us Czechia supporters. So yeah, again, high hopes for Czechia this year. And actually, one thing I wanted to mention, right before the announcement, someone rumored that it could be Adela who would represent Czechia with a song that I can't remember the name of. And someone asked her about it, but she said that she's from Slovakia and she would only ever represent Slovakia in Eurovision, even if she wanted to do Eurovision at all, which she doesn't. So, yeah, that's interesting that she's emphasized that she's from Slovakia, and yet days later it was announced that a Slovak artist, or I guess you could say a Czech artist of Slovak origin, will be representing Czechia in Eurovision 2025. So that is Czechia. We will be having Adonis representing Czechia in Eurovision 2025, and the hopes are very, very high at the moment. Now, there has also been one more artist announcement, which is for the Netherlands, and it will actually be Cloud. I actually looked it up on Wikipedia. That is how you pronounce it. In French, you would say Claude, but in more recent artist introductions, he pronounces his name as Claude because it's the way you would say it in Dutch. And by the way I hint at French, you can kind of tell that he's got a French speaking background, and indeed he does. He actually frequently uses French in his music because I believe he is of Congolese origin or otherwise Francophone African origin. So that's why a lot of his music has French in it, because he grew up speaking French. And it was announced, actually, upon the announcement of Claude, that there will be two secret languages, or rather, two languages in his song for Eurovision that are kept secret for now. And yeah, what a secret. I mean, it's going to be French and either English or Dutch, but I think it's going to be Dutch. So, yeah, a French and Dutch song for Eurovision 2025. How about that, eh? But those are the current confirmed entries. Now let's look at some more news about other entries. And by entries, of course, I mean potential entries, because we are talking about the national finals or the national selections of various countries. Now, you can see here I haven't included every single country because for some countries there's just not that much news. I will still talk about some of them, even though they might not be included here. But these are the ones for which we have a bit more news than other countries, let's just say. Starting with Armenia, we will see the return of Depi Evratesil. That's the national final that was used right up till 2020, I believe, and afterwards they've been doing internal selections since. But this year they're going back to Depi Evratesil, and sure enough, Athena Manoukian has decided to submit a song for that as well, seeing as she won it in 2020. There have also been a lot of other big names in the Armenian music industry who are submitting songs as well. We'll just have to see what happens. But for now, the main headline for Armenia is that the national final is returning. Now, for Belgium, we will also have a return of a national final, but this national final is a pretty new one. It's called Eurosong. And it only happens in years where VRT are doing the entry, that is the Dutch speaking entry, or the Dutch speaking broadcaster, rather. They will be hosting a national final called Eurosong, and it's also not going to be the only Eurosong, but this is going to be the national final for Belgium this year. Now, it's interesting because, as usual, there are not that many artists, and actually, I would say it functions a bit more like a songwriting camp, a televised songwriting camp, than an actual national final, although there will be a live show at the end of it. A lot of it is actually already pre-recorded, and there is one name that is gaining a lot of attention at the moment, which is Mondisa. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But Mondisa is huge. She has upwards of 1.5 million regular streamers on Spotify, and she is so huge, in fact, that the bookmakers have currently put Belgium first to win Eurovision 2025, and it is because of Montisa. So this is pretty huge. We haven't heard any of their songs yet, but we will hear them next month, actually, which I will get onto at the end. But right now, all of the rage is about Montisa, especially for possibly even winning Eurovision 2025, which is kind of huge. But yeah, that is Belgium with their national final Eurosong, and one of its participants is the very, very popular Montisa with 1 million or more of regular streamers on Spotify. So that's going to be pretty huge. But we'll just have to see what her song sounds like when the showcase eventually comes. Now, moving on to Estonia, of course, we'll be having a national final AC Lal. And I believe currently we are having the votes for the wildcard entry. But we have seen a lot of returning names like Minimal Wind, like Anne Marlin, and actually Anne Marlin's song is surprisingly popular in the charts right now in Estonia. But yeah, names like Minimal Wind, Anne Marlin, Janek, and a few others that I can't think of right now on the spot. Oh yeah, and Elisa as well. So yeah, these are some of the names that have returned, but there is one big name that is eclipsing all of them, and that is Tommy Cash. Now, Tommy Cash is huge in Estonia, and this time he decided to enter a song into the national final, and it's very much like, if you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it, basically. And even a lot of people who were fans of Tommy Cash actually expressed disappointment at this song. They said that it feels like a parody of Eurovision. But I haven't actually listened to it, but that is what some people have said after having listened to the song. But yeah, nonetheless, Tommy Cash is currently number 1 on the Estonian charts, and so it's somewhat difficult to imagine anyone else winning the national selection for the time being. So that's Estonia. Let's move on to Germany, who once again have a super long national final name, and this year is Chefsache EST 2025 Wer singt für Deutschland? Now, this is their national final, and as usual, it's going to be hosted by Barbara Schöneberger. But what's different is that for the first time in years, Stefan Raab is coming back. You might remember Stefan Raab as being one of the architects in bringing Lena to the stage back in the early 2010s, and 2010 actually, just. But yeah, Stefan Raab was one of the main architects behind that national final and a few national finals beforehand, which all proved to be very successful. And so Germany, after having a, let's just say, flop era, is deciding to bring him back in hopes that it would inspire something more interesting. But we'll just have to see how well that goes. But yeah, for now, that's really all we have. We don't have the names for the national final yet, but we do have the name Stefan Raab, who is back and involved in the production of the national final. From Germany, we move to Greece, who are actually returning to a national final. Yes, after what, a decade of internal selections, they are returning to a national final, and this time it's probably not going to be hosted in a mall because it's going to be produced by the company Mad, who are also responsible for several major kind of music industry events in Greece. For example, the Mad VMAs, where a lot of Greek artists perform and like receive awards and such. So Mad are very famous for producing things like these, and they will actually be producing the national final for Greece. And one potential name for Greece is actually Evangelia. Now, Evangelia has been on Eurofan wish lists for many, many years, and this is possibly the year which she is most likely to actually make it to Eurovision, ironically enough, despite the national final format, because not too far from now, or rather, I think a few weeks ago, Evangelia actually had a number 1 hit in Greece, which is kind of huge. For years she's been making kind of Greek sounding stuff without being really accepted by the Greek audience, but this last year she has been very popular in Greece, actually, and so based off of that, she might actually be able to win this national final, and I think she's actually already confirmed that she has entered the song into the national final, but we'll just have to see what happens. So yeah, keep your eyes out for Greece. We might be getting Evangelia. Let's see what happens. Now, the first country that I haven't put here because I don't have a space is Iceland. Now, I don't have much to say about Iceland yet because we don't have any names or anything like that, but we do know the date for the first semifinal, which is the 8th of February. So that's actually really early for Iceland standards, because usually they have their final pretty much like mid March, but this time we're having the first semifinal in early February, so the whole national final could be over by the end of February, which is very early by Icelandic standards. So that is Iceland. From there, let's move on to Ireland, who, according to some people who have listened to the shortlist, they were disappointed by it, because sometimes they actually recruit actual Eurofans to listen to the shortlist and to make the choices on what actually makes the cut to the national final. And yes, we're gonna have a national final as usual. But that was what they said a few weeks ago, or again, a few weeks ago when I made the slide, although I only made the slide yesterday, but the news a few weeks ago was that the shortlist was disappointing. But actually, just today, actually, some of the songs have been leaked, and people are really excited about them. So I don't know how disappointing the shortlist really was. Maybe they just had high standards. I haven't listened to the leaks, but some of them do look visually interesting. I just looked at like their kind of single covers and such like that. So yeah, I haven't listened to the songs. I don't tend to listen to leaks. Hell, I haven't even listened to either Montenegro or Albania. But yeah, some leaks are out there if you know where to find them. I'm not recommending you find them because I wouldn't listen to them either. But yeah, that is Ireland. allegedly they have a disappointing shortlist, but the fan reaction suggests otherwise. So with that said, let's move on to Italy, who, of course, are returning to the festival called San Remo, and they've announced the names for San Remo, which include, among others, Francesco Gabbani, Noemi, Elodie, and Francesca Michelin. And of course, several of these have already gone to Eurovision for Italy, and some people are really rooting for LD to do that this time, but we'll just have to see what happens. Obviously, we don't have the songs yet. So let's move on to Latvia, where City Zeni are back in the selection. I'm not sure why, but they are back in the selection, but this time with a song in Latvian. I believe it's called Ramtai. And I haven't listened to it, but they are back in the selection. But speaking of songs in Latvian, we also have another song called Legal, which is being performed by the Ludwig, who was actually in the selection a few years ago, I believe, but he is back with a song called Legal, and that is kind of the big favorites right now. Although allegedly it could be in trouble for sampling a chorus sequence from some other song from 10 years ago. I don't know that for sure, but that's just kind of what I've read on Twitter. But yeah, these are the two main ones I would say people are talking about. City Zeni with the song Ramtai, and the Ludwig with the song Legal. Although Legal, I think, is actually mostly in English, but the chorus is in Latvian, from what I understand. From Latvia, let's move on to where I did my student exchange this year, Lithuania. We are returning to Eurovision LT, but the format is huge because there are 45 entries. Yes, 45. But there are 5 semis, I think, and only 2 will qualify from each semi, which is cutthroat AF. So, yeah, that is that's the number of entries that we've got. Some of the names include Gibrasi, Geva Zasimoskete, and also Petunia, who you might remember last time she was in Eurovision LT, that was 2023, with the song Love of My Life, which was one of my favorite songs of the entire season. But this time, she's allegedly coming with a song that's electro folk. So that's going to be interesting. The song is called Isalduma, which means to the sweetness or something like that. We'll just have to see how things go. We don't have a clear kind of runaway favorite yet. Because there are just so many goddamn entries. But yeah, we have 45 entries for Lithuania. And I have one more country that I want to talk about that I haven't mentioned here, which is Luxembourg. Now, Luxembourg have announced their participants in the national final called Luxembourg Song Contest. And there's one name from last year that returned. I unfortunately cannot remember her name right now. But that's not actually what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the allegation that the national final might be rigged. Now, they've announced the names, and one of the participants is called Mana. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's M-A umlaut N-A. So this Mana singer is coming with a song, of course, and I'm told, or well, someone tweeted a while back that Mana is actually the girlfriend of one of the producers. So the national final might well be rigged in her favor. We don't know that for sure, but what we do know is that she is not the favorite to win the contest right now, the selection. So we just have to see what happens. So yeah, that is Luxembourg. It might be rigged. I've never lost faith in a returning country this quickly in my life, but yeah, that's Luxembourg. Let's move on to Slovenia, who are returning to the national final EMA. There will be 12 entries, I believe, and I think 2 semifinals. I don't know about that part, but there will be 12 entries in the national final, and the 2 that the people are talking about right now are Clayman and July Jones. Now, I think July Jones doesn't really need an introduction. She is very iconic. Although she said that this will be kind of her 2.0, this will be kind of her debut at a new style of sorts. In fact, her song is called A New Religion. But yeah, July Jones is back in the selection. And Clayman, I have read, is some sort of TV host. And from the looks of it, his song is going to be a sort of classical slow ballad. And the worry is that people might vote for Clayman because he's just more popular in the country, even though his song might not be the best one in the selection. So that's Slovenia. I care about Slovenia more than other countries because Slovenia is great. And let's see whether July Jones can win the selection in February or something. Moving on to Spain, we have the return of Benidorm Fest, of course. And the main kind of runaway favorite right now is La Chispa with the song Ardita de Llorar. Now, I haven't listened to the song, but it is literally the only thing that anyone is talking about right now in Spain and outside of Spain, or at least like in relation to Benidorm Fest. But there have been a few others that are being discussed, but like almost everyone is talking about La Chispa with Ardita de Llorar. And I haven't listened to it. So if you have, let me know what it sounds like, and let me know if you think it has a chance to win Benidorm Fest and represent Spain in Eurovision 2025. So that's just the main one that I've gathered that everyone is talking about. But yeah, we'll see. With Sweden, we are of course returning to the very iconic Melodifestivalen, and of course we have a lot of names that have already appeared in previous mellow contests and even Eurovision, such as Jon Lundvik, Clara Hammarström, Annika Vikihalde. This is a special shout out to one of my friends in one of my group chats, Måns, Arvingana, and Scarlett. Now, I specifically bring up Scarlett because there is a non-zero chance that Scarlett might win the selection because they were drawn into the last semifinal and they were placed last in the running order. So that's kind of huge. And even the rumors say that Scarlett's song is actually probably one of the best in the selection. So we'll have to see what happens. But in case you missed the news, they've also removed the kind of second chance round, I think. They've basically now got 5 semifinals and 6 entries in each semifinal. So I think 2 songs qualify from each semi, but we'll have to see. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, 30 songs, 6 per semifinal, basically. So finally, on our list here is Ukraine. They have announced most of their entries for Vidbir this year, and they include Hayat and Zifferblatt, who you might recognize from previous selections. And they are currently, I believe, still voting for the final finalists, but we'll have to see who wins that one. Alright, moving away from the national selections, let's get back to the organization of the contest. Now, there have been a few changes in the organization. They've created 2 new posts, which are the ESC director. I'm not shortening that because I'm lazy. It is literally called the ESC director, not Eurovision director. But they've already appointed Martin Green, who worked on the 2023 contest. They've appointed him to basically oversee all of the duties of everyone, including Martin Osterdahl. So yeah, he is above Martin Osterdahl, actually, and he also oversees this second post called the head of brand and commercial. Now, we don't know what that does, really, and we don't know who's been appointed to it yet, but that's just another post that they've created. In terms of more material changes affecting the participants, they've now come up with a rule that there will no longer be behind-the-scenes filming of participants without the approval of the heads of delegations. So we're basically we're coming out of 2024, we're coming out of Eurovision 2024 with the controversy over Yoast, and so they've instituted this new rule that people can't be filmed anymore without prior approval, and overall, I think that's a good thing, but it doesn't solve the main problem. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But this does also tie into the third thing, which is that they've got a new set of conduct rules and also duty of care guidelines, which are coming out soon, which is expected to be followed by every delegation participating in Eurovision. And the fourth thing, this is relevant to you if you're interested in going to Eurovision. They have decided to do pre-registration for ticket sales. So until the 10th of January, and that is when you're watching this, there will be a thing set up for pre-registrations, so you can buy your tickets. I don't actually really know how pre-registration works, but there you go. That's the thing that they've done in concerts for like major pop stars and such. I've heard. So yeah, there's going to be a pre-registration for buying tickets to Eurovision. So again, if you're going to Eurovision, kind of keep that in mind. I don't know if you can even still do it, but nominally it only closes on the 10th next month. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So this section is going to be in every single Rigel's Random Reports episode from this point forward, which is what's next. Now, I'm going to be usually doing this kind of month by month, but if there's something interesting going on, I might include that as well. But for now, this is all I could fit into the slide, frankly. So let's go through them quickly, one by one. On the 6th, we will have the reveal of the ASTLAO wildcard. On the 8th, we will have the artist reveal for UMK, which is the Finnish selection. On the 11th, we will have the first semi of Eurovision Dagskrys LD. On the 14th, we will have the reveal of the Polish national final artists. On the 16th, which is 2 days later, we will have the artist reveal for Melody Grand Prix, which is the Norwegian national final, which I forgot to mention in the selection news section that they've actually cut it down to 10 artists total, and there's not actually going to be semifinals anymore. So yeah, they're going to reveal all 10 artists for Melody Grand Prix on the 16th, and the day after that, we will have the artist reveal for Sumva Kepnin, the Icelandic selection, on the 18th. So yeah, these are some pretty packed days, I would say. We're going to have the first showcase for Eurosong, the Belgian Eurosong, and a week later, we're going to have the Luxembourg Song Contest, which is the Luxembourgish national final, and also the second showcase for Eurosong, during which we will hear Montisa's song for the first time. So that's going to be pretty massive. And 3 days after that, we're going to have the semi-final draw. So we're going to find out which countries are going to be in which semi-final. And the day after that, we will have the national final from Greece. And on the same day as the semi-final draw, we will have the start of Benidorm Fest. We will have the first semi-final, and then the final of Benidorm Fest will be on the 1st of February. And this is very far in the future, but we are seeing very promising signs that Croatia might be returning to Junior Eurovision. They've already got commentators for the 2024 contest, and they've, I think, officially put into their budgets that they will be returning to Junior Eurovision in 2025, so that's going to be very exciting because, after all, Croatia did win the very first Junior Eurovision Song Contest. So that's going to be very exciting. And with all of that in mind, thank you for watching my pilot episode of Rigel's Random Reports. The format, honestly, isn't too different. I'm just covering stuff on a PowerPoint slide rather than on Wikipedia or Eurovision World. But I thought it would be a cleaner presentation rather than just scrolling back and forth on Wikipedia, which you can do that yourself. But I hope I've been able to condense some of the more interesting news from the Eurovision world into this video, and I don't actually know how long it is, so hopefully I'm not yapping too much. But like I said earlier, I am recording this on the morning of the 31st, so I don't know how many people are going to watch this before 2025. But with that said, I hope you had a Merry Christmas or just Happy Holidays otherwise. And Happy New Year to all of you, and I'll see you in 2025.